So first, I think first we should define undocumented.
Okay.
So let's define that for our viewers, because a
And
lot
how
of
many
people don't know.
undocumented?
Because a lot of people don't know, like,
Yeah.
what does it mean to be undocumented? Like, you would even say, like, oh, I'm undocumented. People are like,
What?
I mean,
Yeah.
you don't have
No,
enough-
it's real.
yeah.
It's real. I actually get that. I actually just got that response the other day, and I was like, well, let me explain.
yeah.
So undocumented means, in my case, I came here at the age of 5 and overstayed my visa. So it means not having the legal paperwork to be legally in this country, right? So being undocumented could be anyone from having crossed the border at some point from Canada or Mexico or wherever you might have crossed the border.
Barbados.
Or coming here on a visa and then overstaying the visa, right? So those are like ways in which you can basically be here.
And if I can add that undocumented people aren't Hispanic or Latino descent. They come from many different backgrounds and cultures, and so I think that is one thing that's been missing out of the immigration conversation is that undocumented people look like each and every one of us here in America. Which is an interesting concept.
No, the movement has been very Latinized, right? Because of like just the flux of when people think immigrants, right? You automatically go, oh, Latino, Latina. And so, yeah, it's been really interesting with that. But, I mean, some of the struggles being undocumented, especially as a student, I grew up with this, just not being able to work legally. If you did work, you would do it under the table, or you would have to find illegal ways to work, right? Or not being able to go to school. A lot of these things have progressed in the last couple of years. Yeah, you can't. I walk around with my passport in hopes that like I never lose it, because God forbid I lose that, like I'm done. And luckily my status is changing soon, and I'm privileged enough to say that. But so there's a number of things, right? And there's just a number of intersecting issues that go along with this that we've seen in the past. Like, for example, with domestic abuse, we've seen like undocumented women who are too afraid to call the police, not knowing, and policies have been made since this, but not knowing that they could call the police even though they're undocumented and still be protected by that.
So I think one of the things with when you talk about undocumented youth, what really brought like this immigration reform conversation to the forefront was the youth.
Yeah.
It was the young people, and once again, like we might not be getting that much like credit, youth, we meaning youth, but I think it was dope for me to see the narrative change. So before, it was something that you were in the closet if you were undocumented, because you were aware, because all of those different things that Daniel just listed, I couldn't have a driver's license, I couldn't get a job, so you didn't want to tell people that you were undocumented. It was something that you like hid. But what was dope was when the narrative changed to saying, I'm undocumented and these are the civil liberties that you have that I don't have. That's when people started to like really listen and say, wow, because I didn't know. Like even growing up in LA, I mean, like the high school that I went to was predominantly Latino, and there were so many people that didn't. Then in high school, we called it like they used to talk about what it meant to be undocumented, but it was in a joking way, you don't have papers, but not knowing. Oh, that means that like I'm off to college at the end of high school, and even though you got into college, you can't go unless you can pay for it.
Right.
So really changing that narrative and then starting to tell about their stories and tell their struggles, and then that's when everyone else kind of said, okay, all right, that's different. Even I would tell my mom about like stories about like Daniel can't get a job. This made me mad, and she's like, what? And she gets kind of like empowered in a way like that is insane, and starts to talk about these issues. So I think that a lot of social movements need that lesson about telling that narrative and sharing that narrative and how